I want to describe an illness to you. It has no fever, no rash, nothing a doctor can find with a stethoscope. The people carrying it feel entirely well. Many of them feel, for the first time in their lives, wonderful, alive, certain, part of something bigger than themselves. That feeling is the symptom. I called it a psychic epidemic. And I want to explain to you exactly how it starts. Because it has started before. I watched it happen once in my own country, and I don't believe it has stopped happening since. Here is the mechanism, plainly. Reason works on a person only up to a certain emotional temperature. Below that line, you can argue with someone, show them evidence, change their mind. Above it, something switches off. The argument stops landing. What replaces it is a slogan, a chant, a wish, dressed up as a fact. And once enough people cross that line together, you no longer have a crowd of individuals who happen to agree. You have one organism, thinking with a single, much cruder mind. I don't say this as a metaphor. Psychologically, it behaves exactly like a possession. The kind I saw in individual patients for 40 years. Except now it's distributed across a population, instead of contained in one troubled person. A person in that state doesn't feel taken over. They feel clear, awake, righteous. That's what makes it dangerous. It wears the mask of insight while doing the work of infection. And here's the part people resist hearing. The men and women most susceptible to spreading it are not, for the most part, monsters or fools. They're ordinary people carrying an unusual amount of unlived, unexamined material, resentment, grievance, hunger for meaning, and no private place to put it. A society gives them a stage instead of a mirror, and the material goes public. I watched this directly in Germany in the 1930s. Before I said anything about politics, I said something about religion, because that's where the real story was. I wrote that an old god had come back, not literally. I'm not asking you to believe in Norse mythology. I mean an old pattern of the human psyche. The restless, wandering god of storm and frenzy the Germans once called Wotan. A force of ecstatic unreason that their culture had officially outgrown, filed away as superstition and stopped taking seriously. And because nobody was taking it seriously anymore, nobody was managing it either. You cannot retire an archetype. You can only stop looking at it. And what you stop looking at doesn't leave. It goes underground and waits for an opening. First, it showed up in young people wandering the roads with rucksacks and lutes, restless, searching for something their parents' rationalism hadn't given them. Then, in the unemployed, wandering for a different reason. Then, within a few years, in hundreds of thousands of people, marching. Not wandering anymore. Marching, from 5-year-olds to old men. I said at the time, Wotan, the wanderer, is on the move. A whole nation had, without knowing it, invited its oldest, least tamed god back to the head of the table. I said this in 1936. People thought I was being fanciful. I was being a diagnostician. Now, the part that makes this uncomfortable rather than merely historical. Almost everyone listening to me right now assumes this is a story about other people. The fanatics, the mob. Not me. I think for myself. Here's the problem with that comfort. Self-knowledge, as most people practice it, is knowledge of the conscious ego and nothing more. You know your opinions, your habits, the version of yourself you describe at a dinner party. That is a thin slice of what you actually are. Underneath it is a much larger territory you've never surveyed. And it is precisely in that unmapped territory that a psychic epidemic finds its opening. You cannot be infected through a door you've already inspected. You get infected through the one you didn't know was there. This is why the sheer size of a population offers no protection. Quite the opposite. The bigger the crowd, the smaller and more replaceable each person feels, and the easier it becomes to hand your judgment over to something larger than yourself. A movement, a cause, a leader, and call it belonging, instead of what it is, which is abdication. So what actually holds against this? Not a better argument, not a better slogan of your own. A person, one person, with enough private acquaintance with their own darkness, their own capacity for exactly the resentment and fantasy I've described, is worth more resistance than 100 people who've only ever met their own reflection. Not because that person is smarter or more moral, because they've already met the enemy at home, in themselves, where it's small and survivable, instead of meeting it for the first time in a stadium, where it's enormous and wearing a flag. That is the actual antidote to a mass movement, not more mass in the opposite direction. A stubborn, unglamorous return to the single human being, and everything in them that hasn't been looked at yet. I'm going to spend a good deal of time on this channel in that unmapped territory, yours and mine both, because I think it's the only ground worth defending anymore. Not the ground of who's right, the ground of who's actually awake. If that's a project you want to watch someone take seriously, stay. There's a great deal more underneath to be discovered.